Hello. In this video, we are going to go over a brief project on how to get working and setting up Microsoft project to do your scheduling and to help figure out some of your budgeting. So the first thing that we need to do is go ahead and open up Microsoft Project, which I'm going to do now. You should get a window that looks something like this. We are going to open up a blank project. And this is the type of window that you're going to be familiar with. We are going to be bouncing around quite a bit between some of these menu items up here, so feel free to click through them. Task is where we're defaulting. We will be looking some at resource. At the very end, we'll look at some report. Not so much project, maybe some with view and format. Okay. And then there's file, which brings us back here. To get back, we just click this little green arrow, and here we are. So I'm going to go on to my task. First thing is you need to have your sheet provided that talks about the web design project. It's a web design and development project. Says so right up at the top, just to make sure you've got the right sheet. It lists the resources that we're going to need. Both people and some travel expenses, and then it lists all of the work in phases that we will need to set up, and each item, each task on there gives how many days, who is going to be working on it, and if any additional resources will be needed at that time. So to get started, I'm actually going to go to my resource sheet. To do that, from your task menu, you'll see this Gantt chart on the left-hand side. Go ahead and click that arrow, and we're going to type in, or we're going to click on resource sheet. This is where we can add all of the resources that we'll need in a little bit. So I'm just going to go through that list. I am just going to type in their names. So Corey, he is our account executive. And notice when I just clicked off of the square, it says the type. We have 3 different types to choose from here. We have work, material, and cost. Because this is a person, we are billing them out. This is work. So I am going to go into standard rate, and according to the resources sheet, this company bills Corey out at $75 per hour. Oop. Okay. Second resource is Oscar, and he is also work and is billed out at $100 per hour. And then the last of the people is Tammy. She is our back-end programmer, again, also work, and she is billed out at $125 an hour. So this will give us an kind of establish how much when we start assigning hours and days to projects. Right now we also have, don't worry about the 5 individuals for testing, but we will put in travel. And this is not work. This is actually a cost that we accrue. And to differentiate this in the initials, we can go ahead and change it. I am just going to say travel. And for right now, this is what we're going to do. Don't worry about this cost per use. We'll come back and take care of that. Okay. This is what we're going to put in for now. So let's go up to our Gantt chart again at the top. This time we are actually going to select Gantt chart. That's where we're going to spend a lot of our time working. So now we're going to be looking down at the second part of the sheet where it says the work. Disregard the bold items for now because we'll come back and add those in. So right now go through and add each of the individual items. I am just going to add an item and then arrow down. But before we do that, notice this has a little blue like thumbtack type image next to it. You'll see I have a drop down I can choose here, but at the same time up in my task menu it shows me this means manually scheduled. We actually want to have everything in here auto scheduled. So I'm just going to click auto schedule, and at the bottom here I have new tasks manually scheduled. I am going to change that to auto scheduled. So every task that I put in from here on out will be auto scheduled. You'll see what this means in a little bit. Okay, so the first part is start. And then we meet with the client. Remember, I'm skipping the bold text. Almost done here. Modifications, launch site, troubleshoot. And there's one that I missed on the sheet, and we'll go ahead and put it in here, which is just simply finish. Okay, so these are all of the tasks that we have, and you'll notice on the Gantt chart it's got all these little blue bars. Well, it's representing all of these right now are just saying 1 day, and there's a question mark. So we're going to start by putting in the dates for each of these. We're going to go back to the top. And for start, it's actually 0 because what we're doing here is establishing a milestone. And by doing so, you'll see that it gets this little diamond shape here, and it gives us the date that we're starting the project, which is today's date. You could always go in and change it if you wanted to put it into the future. By doing that, you would click here and click the little arrow and choosing a date off of the calendar, but we're not going to change that for right now. All right, meet with client. It says that it's going to take us 1 day. And just as an FYI, if I happen to put in like months or anything, it looks like on the sheet it is all in days. We are looking at a 5-day work week. So let's see, research competitors says 5 days. So we'll change this to 5 days. And let's see, research target markets is also 5 days. Creative brief is 1 day. Sitemap is also 1 day. And you'll see these bars are growing in different sizes on the right hand side. So over here you'll see the number of days. Let's see, front end coding, we're giving that 15. You can also type in, I'm just clicking the arrows right now. Back end programming, because it is very long, I am going to type in the number of days, which is 40 days. It's much easier than clicking the little arrow, but that's up to you as to how you want to do that. Let's see, populate with content, testing. And now we are at finish. Finish is going to be just like start. It's our big milestone at the end, so it's going to go at 0 days. And just like at the beginning, you'll see that there is the little diamond shape with a date. Mind you, this date is still today's date. We need to make that change. And how we do that is we need to link these activities. And this is where this auto schedule that's under the task mode column is going to be really, really helpful. Before we even do that, I am going to categorize these by those bold pieces of text that we see on the worksheet. By doing, how we do that is simply by clicking each of the fields under task name. I'm going to shift click. Oops, we just have start, and meet with client is going to be in our first category of discovery. So I've clicked, both of those are highlighted. I'm still in my task menu up above. I am now going to click summary. Notice it puts in this bold text. I can type in it now, so I'm just going to type in discovery. Now I do the same thing with each of the rest. So for research, we have research competitors, shift click, shift click, shift click, down to sitemap, and again, click summary and type it in. And launch. And the last one, which is wrap up. So it's just client training and finish. So we'll do this. This is called wrap up. Okay, and you'll notice what's happening over here is on these lines where we have the bold pieces, there's this little arrow. You can click it, which just hides the elements that are underneath it, but it also provides this bracket that kind of frames how long that task is working. Right now, because we haven't linked anything so that it's not showing up consecutively, it's showing up concurrently, one on top of the other, it's not giving us an accurate date. So now we need to go and link our tasks. And in order to do that, we need to go up and start at the beginning. We're still working under this task column. I clicked start, and again, I'm going to shift click, and I'm going to click meet with client. And for this, you do only 2 at a time. So I'm going to go up here, still under this task menu, look for the little chain link icon. What this does is it links our tasks. And you'll notice over here, it creates a little arrow. This is going to become more obvious here in a second as to how this works. Again, we skip the bold text, so we have to control click here. Oops. We have to control click so that these are highlighted, but the research is not. But we do the same thing and go up and click on this link. And notice it goes ahead and sits this out, right? So now we do research competitors, and we link this. And we'll just keep working our way through, and you'll see how each of these builds out. Remember, shift click when they're right next to each other, and control click when you need to skip one of the bold pieces. Okay, I just need to scroll down on my screen so I can see what's going on. Okay, we have everything adjusted here. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to tell us how many days each of these areas is going to take to accomplish. So I'm going to scroll back up. The discovery phase, because we only have the meet with client, is going to take 1 day. Research is going to take 12 days. So if you look, research competitors is 5, research target markets is 5, creative brief is 1, and sitemap is 1. So if you add all of those together, you get 12, and so on and so forth throughout the rest. Okay, I'm going to hold my mouse over this bar and make it smaller so we can see more of our chart. So now you can see what's happening with our chart, and here are our connections. And in these gray spots where you see it skipping over it, you can notice by looking at the top, those are Saturdays and Sundays, and we set this up as a 5-day work week, so we are not going to be working Saturdays and Sundays. But this tells you what each stage goes and how they are going one right after the other, all the way to the end. So this project looks like, if we started it today, would end September 1st. Okay, I'm just going to scroll all the way back up. I'm going to go over here, make this wider again. And the next thing that we need to do is apply our resources. So you'll notice I keep scrolling this out. And still within this task menu, I now have a resource names column. Again, I don't apply anything to this summary. What I do is just apply it to each of these individual tasks. You'll notice start doesn't have anything assigned to it because it's a beginning. It's just noting that it is the beginning. So we'll go through our sheet and assign our resources to each one based on what it says on the sheet. So the first one, we have the account executive, which is Corey, and we have our front end developer, which is Oscar, and we have some travel. And now you'll notice that each of their names and the name of the item will show up here. So we need to go do this for each of our items. So research competitors, just to get the idea, is our front end developer, that is Oscar. And we're just going to keep working our way down. And if it helps you, write the names on your sheet so it makes it easier to type it in, so that you know, for example, that the front-end developer is Oscar. And that's all we need for the wireframes. See, Oscar's just doing a bunch of work right now. We haven't gotten into Tammy's spot yet. And here is Tammy's spot. She'll do all of this work. Again, I need to scroll down. Oscar and Tammy will take care of any changes. Launching the site will also be Oscar and Tammy. Troubleshooting. Again, this is where Oscar and Tammy, both are front-end and back-end developer people. And then client training is going to be Corey, our account executive. And again, finish, just like start, does not have any resources applied to it. So I'm going to make this smaller again. And we're going to see names should be next to each of these items now. Now the question is, let's go back here and scroll up. According to my schedule that I placed on here, I say that research the research competitors and research target markets under the research category can be done at the same time. So I could click and move this. We're going to keep the existing link. Okay, so actually, it's not when I hit cancel. So I'm going to make this start date. I'm actually going to go in and change this and say we want it to start on. But now notice when I put in that date and I said that remove the link that's set up between these two, I get these two little red guys over on the side under this I column indicators. What it's telling us is that we've over allocated Oscar, our resource in this particular case. He can't work on both things at the same time. So how we fix this is up in our menus across the top, we will go to resource and scroll all the way over, and you'll see this one called level all. So when you see this, what level all does is it allows Microsoft Project to try and clear any conflicts. So I'm going to click that, and notice it's moved things, but now it's moved research competitors out after this. I don't like this, and it's because I've put in this date, right? So I'm going to change my date out and change this back to the 13th, and I've got a mess. So, okay, I'm going to undo because, excuse me, because he can't work on them concurrently. So we will just let them sit, okay? So here they are, but we do have some areas that things can happen at the same time. So, for example, Oscar and Tammy can be working on the project at the same time that Corey is working on the creative brief. What I'm doing is I'm going to try and link these again. It's going to want them to be concurrent. So what I'm going to do now, because I say that this can actually work at the same time, is I want to go in and I'm going to manually schedule this. So we're going to change it. We're going to say I want this done on the 27th because there's no reason it can't be done. And if I double click on how many days it takes, I get this window. And it tells me that it's manually scheduled. And in this case, I don't need this predecessor. I don't need it beforehand, right? And so there's my resources. There's my advanced. Okay, so now I can set some constraint types if I want. And so what I'm going to do, change this and see if it makes a difference. I can start as soon as possible. And it's still going to move it to the 28th. Okay. We're fine. We're getting everything done. Here's Oscar's work, right? Oscar, he's doing stuff. Now Tammy is. And we roll all the way out till the end. Okay? So now we have all of our resources allocated. We have all of our dates. We've done a level all to make sure that we don't have any sort of conflicts going on. Now we can actually do a few things and look at what is going on with our pricing, with the budget side of things. So I'm going to go again up to under the task menu, the Gantt chart menu, click on this, and I am going to go to my resource usage. What this tells me is how much of my resources will be used. At a later point, you can put in what the actual amount is, but it shows you what is out there currently. I'm going to go back and click on this again. We have a resource graph. That's not providing a whole lot of help, so we'll skip that. But my point here is go ahead and play around with these pieces. One last thing, okay, hold on, I'm going to go to the beginning here. We now need to establish what's called a baseline. And if you remember, a baseline is the part that tells us that this is the times we want to meet. So that when things change, we can see how much things are off. So if you go to the Format tab, you'll see I'm back on my Gantt chart view. I'm going to go up to Baseline, and I'm just going to click on the first one. All right. Oops, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, to set our baseline, we actually need to go under the project view. Again, we're still at the Gantt chart view. Go to project, and along here you will see set baseline. So we will click on that arrow. We will say set baseline. I just leave everything here as a default, and we'll hit OK. And now what I did is went to Format, to Baseline, select the one that I just assigned, said last saved on today. And now you will notice I have two bars. These are the bars saying they're matching equally right now to everything we set up. But if we go in and can actually say how much work some of these are taking, I'm going to scroll this way out so that we can see under new column, I'm going to go down to this one called actual duration. And we can start plugging in how long these tasks actually took. So this one will say our meeting still took a day. That's fine. Research competitors, we'll say that actually went faster than we thought. So that's only going to be 3 days. And this will be 4 days. And bear in mind, you don't have to type in exactly what I'm putting here. What I'm doing is I'm going to show you how it's moving some things around. Okay, we're going to say our creative brief took exactly the right amount of time. Wireframes, they took the right amount of time. And our conceptual designs, we'll say they went over a little bit. Okay, before I complete this, I'm going to narrow this again so we can see more of our Gantt chart. And you're going to see what's happening. Let me zoom up here and hopefully don't lose what's going on here. Is this dark blue line in between the top bar and the bottom bar is showing where the actual work was done, and you can say it'll tell you that the completion rate was 80%. Okay. I'm going to go add another new column. We're going to call this actual work, and that shows me the hours spent on this project. And if we scroll all the way over, yet again, you can do things like percent work complete, which is where you can put in a percentage, say they're 20% through 40, 50%. This is the way you can actually start tracking projects. I just want to see if we have option here. I think I can put in cost. Here is the cost for, okay, I selected cost. Remember, the bold is the summaries for each of our areas. This is telling us how much each section is costing at the moment. So, for example, the build section is our most expensive at $68,000 because it had the most work in it and it's built out at the highest rate. Okay, this is as far as I wanted to go within Microsoft Project. The part I would encourage you to play with is I want you to look at what some of these reports are that will tell you some of the breakdowns of costs. So we're going to look at, in this case, I'm in the report tab. I'm going to go into resource cost overview, and this gives me a breakdown of how much I am spending for each of my people. It's telling me that this project is going to cost $107,000. And here is the breakdown of how much actual cost for each of these people in different phases of the work. So I encourage you to play around with this, and the second half of this will be to go ahead and do the second project, building a playground, on your own, and I wish you luck.